In the middle of the horror is a battlefield surgeon named John McCrae.
Hold still.
Tents where McCrae operated early in the war gave way to bunkers, better to protect the wounded from German shell fire. Now it's all part of a memorial to a poem marking the spot where a Canadian battlefield surgeon spent 15 minutes scribbling a few lines of poetry.
I'm not sure what to say to Canadians. Dr. Colonel McCrae, he's fundamental to us. The poem is fundamental. It inspired both.
Sandy Gow is descended from John McCrae.
What's the most interesting is how honest he was about his feelings towards the war. He said to his mother, "I don't want to go." He had been to the Boer War already. He knew what it was, and he said, "I'm afraid, but I feel, as a Canadian and as a bachelor, that I have an obligation to go and fight." And I think he was always really burdened by that sense of responsibility, and he always felt that whatever he was sacrificing was never quite enough.
The poem is prompted by the death of a young friend, a protege of McCrae he taught at McGill. As his commanding officer, McCrae conducts the burial service.
We commit to the soil the mortal remains of Alexander Harmer. May he rest in peace.
It's a nice thought to see him perhaps in a one quiet moment resting, thinking about his friend. And
in Flanders fields the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row that mark our place. And in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders fields.
And then he becomes undoctor-like. He becomes belligerent. He becomes defiant. He seeks revenge.
Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
And you can say, oh, that's not really that Canadian the way we've been taught now. Doctor, humanitarian, loves his fellow man. It's not. It's Colonel McCrae, a gunner, a Canadian fighting here who's just lost his friend, and he reacts as a man would. He reacts the way a soldier would. Take up our quarrel with the foe.
It's almost like we should have all of the youth of Canada stand here, and then they'll finally understand In Flanders fields. I take the last verse differently than I've ever taken it before, standing here now. Kind of like what you were saying, where you just suddenly, you felt closer to him than you'd ever before. And the torch that he's holding up, or torch that we are supposed to hold up, is really illuminating the darkest parts of the war.